Hi there, welcome to Subpar Stitches. My name is Hillary and this is my Flosstube channel. I have a lot to show you because one, I've been gone for like 3 or 4 weeks, and two, I've been stitching up like Halloween spooky smalls like it's my job, at my job. So I have quite a bit to show you there. I've got the typical rundown, everything's time-stamped down below, so if you want to skip to a certain spot, and I will have all of the patterns named and linked down below in the description box in the chronological order of when they were mentioned, if there's something that you are interested in checking out. So let's hop right into it, and I like to start with FFOs if I have any, and I do. I have 3 because my WIPCO call for the month of October, one of them was to FFO a minimum of 3 items, and I have 1 like cool FFO and 2 kind of lower effort FFOs because I ended up, kind of the reason why I've been gone for so long is, this I'll talk about later, but I did get like a new cabinet in my room, and so I was like, I wanted to kind of redo my whole office space here. So I took everything out of my office, and about 80% of the way through, I tweaked the right lower side of my back, and I was feeling kind of miserable, and then it made it take forever to reorganize my room. So I managed to get 1 like decent FFO and then 2 that just were like very simple. So the first one was actually this Will Work for Cookies this was a Janlynn kit. So here's what it looks like up close. It was done with all of the kit threads and like the kit, it's like a plastic canvas that is like brown, kind of like perforated paper. And it came with this like piece of wire to hang it, and then I just put some sticky felt on the back because it's like not that serious, but it was like this has been done for quite a while, and it was a very simple finish that I was just putting off. I have a goal of having an entire Christmas tree that's just cross-stitched ornaments, so I have a lot of stuff that needs to be finished in ornaments that I just haven't finished. But Tara, my friend, Willed Woman Crafts, she found this not at this year, but I think it was last year's StitchCon. The kit was on the freebie table, and she was like, I feel like you would like this. And he just says, will work for cookies, and he's kind of flaunting it a little bit there. So not like the perfect finish, because getting the wire through in a way that like didn't bend the canvas was not a thing that I was capable of in that moment of my life. So it is a little bit warped at the top there. I don't know if you can see, but it's just a silly little Janlynn kit, and I like it. So that was the first FFO. And then as I was hauling everything out of my office, I had found these little frames that I had stuffed in the back of my closet, and it was like the perfect size for this little toilet ghost. Oh my gosh, the glare. He's just a little ghost on his phone on the toilet. And this is a Mama Witch cross stitch pattern, which I did on 18 count black Ada, and I used DMC, and I literally just cut this out, stuck it in the frame, and then you can either hang it or you can have it like set like this. I think I'm just gonna set it on some, I don't know, a surface somewhere. But it's just a cute itty bitty little guy, and I just thought, just throw him in the frame. And then the last one I had is called Halloween Biscornu, and this is by the Giddy Stitcher. This was actually one of my spooky smalls for this month. And here is what it looks like. I used this little star button on the one side, and then I didn't have a matching button, so I just used a similar color in round. And then the skulls and the ghosts on the top, they are glow-in-the-dark thread. And I did use a railroading tool for that, and that made it so much easier to work with. So if you're like put off by using some of those more specialty DMC threads, I would recommend trying a railroading tool, because that helped me a lot. And I thought I had grabbed 14 count black Ada for this, and I got way too far into the project before I was like, this seems a little small. I don't know why I didn't catch on immediately that this is in fact 18 count. So this is a very, very small Biscornu, but it's really cute. And finishing Biscornus is pretty easy. I will say, like, this is only the second one I've ever finished, There were a couple parts where, like, okay, I cut way too close to the stitching, and so it got a little bit mangled when I was trying to stitch that together, but that can be the side for the back, and I really like this little star button, so very cute. And again, it just makes me want to make more biscornues. They're just such a fun, silly little, like, pointless object to have. And my husband likes them. He's just like, oh, that's cute. He doesn't know what they are. He's like, is it a pincushion? I was like, yes, but also no. It's also just something to look at. So I just realized I can see, hang on a second. So this is the first biscornu I made. This is a Tiny Modernist one. I also used a star button on this one. So apparently I just really like star buttons. And look at the size difference, because I'm pretty sure this is 14 count and then this is 18 count. So I just want to make stacks of these things. And I'm pretty sure that that one was a free pattern, but like I said at the beginning, everything will be listed down below. So now I have my paper with everything on here. I have my finished objects, which we've got a little bit of a stack. So bear with me. So the reason I have so many FOs is not only because it's been like 3 weeks, but also because last year in October, I was like, let me see how many spooky smalls I can get done. And I managed to get 13. So then I was like, okay, well now I have to do 13 every year for the rest of my life, because 13, Halloween, you know, it's perfect. So I pre-kitted up 13 spooky smalls, and spooky, like, it could be Halloween related or it could just be like something weird. It's whatever I want it to be. One of these is going to be very much like out of left field, I think, but I'm counting it anyways because there's no rules here. But the first one that I did was Crusty Alien by Tits. And I did show this to you guys last time because I had started it. This needs to be washed, but I did it on an 18 count white Ada. And I think it was Kato, or no, it was DMC. And I used DMC on it. And I am kind of proud of this one because you can see it's a lot of like similar colors kind of blended in here. And the pattern I had would not work in Pattern Keeper, so I had to do this off of paper, which was kind of hard to like keep track of when there's not a ton of distinction between all these colors. I really did, when I pulled the colors, I was like, this is not going to be fun to stitch. I really want the end result, but like the color palette looks nice, but it's just not one of those that has a lot of fun colors to stitch with. But actually I ended up really enjoying it, and I really like this, like, this looks kind of black, but it's like a super, super deep navy blue with all these like pinky, peachy kind of flesh tones, and then like the browns. It just looks so good. And what I'm going to do, I bought this hoop here from Michael's, and I'm going to do like a little hoop finish, but my friend Tara, Willow Woman Crafts again, she has done these hoop finishes where she like wraps a ribbon outside of this like outer layer, and it gives it just a little bit extra like kind of visual fun. And so I'm trying to think like what kind of, maybe if I got like a navy blue ribbon to match. Oops, I'm moving it the wrong way. I think that that would be really cute to wrap a ribbon around here. So I'm going to ask her if she can show me how she did that, because that's how I want to finish this. And then this is definitely up for one of my maybe office finishes where I put it in my office so that people leave me alone. Next up is Quirky Quaker Mothman. I did like a lot of Quirky Quakers this month. This is Quirky Quaker Mothman by Darling and Whimsy Design. This is on an 18 count hand-dyed Ada that I did, and I named it Amethyst because I feel like I have to name my fabrics that I dye so that when I put them into my Notion, like, it's not just like hand-dyed purple, hand-dyed green, hand-dyed pink. Like, you know, I want to give them distinct names. So, not that I saved the recipes for any of them, so I don't know. But I used Sulky because the first Quirky Quaker I ever did was the candy corn one, and that one called for Sulky, and I was like, oh, cool. Like, and I think that was like one of the first times I ever really used Sulky. And then it seems like all the Quirky Quakers kind of showcase like different threads, but I'm like, I'm just going to use Sulky for all of them, which is what I ended up doing. This was really quick. Like, this was like a single stitching session. They're like anywhere between like 500 and 700, I think, stitches. And I just realized, like, because they all, at least all the ones I have, they're like standing on something. I think he's standing on a bridge, which is really funny. But yeah, I really liked this. And if you guys ever want like a sulky, one of my sulky conversions for the Quirky Quakers, just let me know and I can give that to you. But yeah, I love the Quirky Quakers. So that was Spooky Small number 2. And then I finished one of my weekly starts. This is Boot Scootin' Spooky. And this is by Stitchy Pros. I did this on a 32 count Vintage Country Mocha by Zweigart, and I just used DMC and Classic Colorworks, I think. I used all the called for. So this was a mix of DMC and Fancy Floss. So like the blue, the orange, and the brown were all the Fancy Floss, I think. Or no, it was the blue, the orange, and the gray were the Fancy Floss. And then I think the brown, black, and white were DMC. So really cute. This was my first time, or one of my first times using Vintage Country Mocha, and I see why it's such a staple, because it's just a really easy, nice tone to work with. Then I did Laundry by Mama Witch Cross Stitch. This one needs to be washed. The Ada got a little bit, like, weirdly dusty. Sometimes when I put black Ada in any kind of hoop, it kind of gives it a weird scuff mark that it washes out, but this is by Mama Witch Cross Stitch, 18 count black Ada using DMC. Nothing too crazy to report about this one. I did mess up a couple of the, like, some of the placement up here, but like with some of the French knots or something, but I'm sure it's fine. I don't know what I'll do with this one, but I just thought it was cute. Little ghost hanging on the laundry line. And I did use, I railroaded for, I think, most of this, just because it's a lot of like white and lighter colors. It's still not my best like white stitching, not that you can see because it's a little blown out in the light, but it's fine. Then I did Crow Quaker by Sprouting Lupine. I think this is the top. Yeah, this is the top. I don't know why that was hard for me to figure out. This is a little piece of 18 count cold foam by Bestitch Me. Erin from the Hathaway Stitchers, she gave me this little cut because I'd always wanted to try this fabric, and she had like a little offcut, and she let me have it, and I found the perfect little piece to put on there. I'm pretty sure this was a freebie, stitched up really fast. I really like the color palette. I think there was like a Fancy Floss version of this. I just did the DMC because I just thought it would be fine, but I really like these kind of like mauvey tones, and then like the gray and the black together. It just looks really good, and I feel like this was a good fabric choice for it because I've been kind of agonizing over like what I would use this little cut for, but then I ended up buying a big piece from them of this in even weave, so now I have more, so now I don't have to worry about like, oh, I'm gonna waste it on something, you know. I think that was Spooky Small number 4. And then Spooky Small number 5, this is Heart Ghostie by Nesting Seams Stitchery. This is kind of like a Valentine's-y looking ghost, and this is on a, why did I write that this is an 18 count? This is like a 36 count, I think. Mystery cut that I got from the sewing shop when I was at Stitch North last year. And you might be like, why did you start in this random spot? Well, because I was going to start in the dead center of this fabric, and then I put it in the hoop, and then I noticed there's like a little hole in it, and I was like, okay, I'll just move it over. And then on the back, there's like a few weird blue spots, so I had to like really make sure I was putting it in the right spot because you can kind of see that blue coming through, and I didn't want it to be showing as much, so I think it's cute. But this one was a lot of white stitching. I have another Mama Witch cross stitch. This one's called Ice Cream and Chill, and this is on 18 count black Ada. I think you can kind of see a little bit more like those scuff marks I was talking about when I put certain black Adas into a hoop. It just kind of does that. I just thought this was really cute. I bought like a bunch of these like little ghost patterns from Mama Witch cross stitch all at once, and then I just didn't do many of them, so I was like, I should kit them up. And I like the kind of like fall leaf vibe here. I wonder, this would also be a good little hoop finish, I think. I should hoop finish that one too, but I'll need another hoop. Then I did Postmodern Ouroboros by the Retro Stitcher. Pretty sure this was also a free pattern. A lot of the smalls I like to do are like free patterns. So I did this on 14 count white Aida from DMC. This one, I had the opposite problem of this guy here, where I thought I had grabbed the 18 count white Aida, and then I was like, why is this coming out so big? So it's just kind of like one of those like glitchier patterns. It is supposed to say Pikachu across the bottom, and I like the font and everything, but A, it was like another 500 stitches, and B, I already know that this is Pikachu. So I was like, I don't feel like it. It's fine. I know it's Pikachu. So I just kind of left it as is. My husband came in the room while I was stitching it, and he was like, I don't like that. Pikachu's supposed to be fat and cute. And I was like, well, he's still kind of fat, but I like his like drool here. And it's only 2 colors, which kind of made it like a quick, easy stitch. So then I finished Skeleton Picnic by Ardith Designs. This is on another mystery cut by the Sewing Shop ink, and it is a 28 count. This was featured in Just Cross Stitch, maybe 2023, I think. I can't remember. I'll put it down below. But like, if your local library has, you know, the magazines on, like, I download them, or not download them, but like I'll get them digitally from the library, and that's how I'll get most of my Just Cross Stitch patterns. But I do actually buy, so I did buy this magazine. I do buy the Halloween and the Christmas ones, but the like regular ones I don't buy because I don't usually want to stitch as much from them. That's just my thing. But like for some reason I always want to have the Halloween and Christmas ones. But this is mostly stitched in DMC, except for these star stitches up here were done with like a mix of Krynic and DMC. It called for something else, but I used a different thread because I just didn't have it, and I wasn't going to buy a whole spool of something that I'll barely use. And then the other thing is, the graves had like initials backstitch on them, but I didn't do that. And I didn't realize until I started stitching it, like, okay, the blanket part was very fun to stitch because lots of colors, but also the skeletons are eating worms for their little picnic. And I didn't realize that when I chose to stitch this. I just got that Tim Robinson song stuck in my head after I realized that, where he's like talking about like the worms are their money and also their bones, and the skeletons will pull your hair up but not out. That's an important distinction. And I tried to tell my husband about it today because I think Tim Robinson's hilarious, but he doesn't think Tim Robinson's that funny. It's just not his type of humor. And so I'm like singing this song at him, and he's just like, okay. But yeah, this is a weird fabric too. It's like quite thick compared to other even weaves I've used, but I bought like a whole like ornament pack, or like ornament cut pack from the sewing shop while I was at Stitch North. And so I've been trying to use them for like a lot of these little things, and this was a fun little stitch. Okay, and then I've got 3 more, and they're all Quirky Quakers that came from the same like design pack. So on her Etsy, Darling and Whimsy sells this like Quirky Quaker mythical creatures. And I'm like, that counts as spooky smalls. So Skeleton Picnic was number 9. And then the Quirky Quaker mythical creatures, technically it has like 3 patterns, but technically it has 4 because there's a alternative colorway for one of them that you can change it. So I was like, okay, these will be my last 4 and I'll round it out to 13. But one of them kind of like doesn't fit, but I'm forcing it to fit. But then I felt kind of guilty, so I kitted up one more small just in case. But so the first one is Loch Ness Monster. And this one, so they're all stitched in sulky. This is the first time I've ever used like a variegated sulky, and I really liked the effect. This one is stitched on 32 count Luna Moth by Bestitch Me. And all of these in this stack took me 1 day to do. I just did them real quick at work. Most of them, like I said, are like 500-ish, maybe 600 stitches. The second one in the pack is a unicorn. So maybe not spooky, but it was in the pack, so I counted it. And this is stitched on 32 count Nightshade by Bestitch Me with sulky. And I feel like it's fine because there is like a horror movie that came out recently about a unicorn, right? So we'll count it. Maybe I should put some like red on the tip of its horn there, do a whole make it murder like Stephanie from Cross Stitch the Globe, you know? But I really liked this color that I picked out, but I don't know if like the pink, I just am not great at choosing colors. So it's like, I always really love the fabric and I really love like the colors I choose, but then I'm like, do they go together? I don't know. And then number 12, this is the Sasquatch, and I used 32 count Paranormal by Bestitch Me, and I really loved stitching this one. I loved the little feet, and then he's got some like backstitched hair around him, and I just thought it was so cute. And then there's an alternate colorway you can do that turns him into a Yeti, which you will see in my new starts, because I did start that one, but I didn't finish it yet, and I'll tell you why, because it was just a dumb day. But I think this one is my favorite. He's so cute. So those were all of my finishes. So I'm doing pretty well. I just got one more, and today is the 26th, so I've got plenty of time to finish it. I'm going to finish it today, I think. So that leads me into new starts, which if you have been following me, you might know that I'm doing a new start every single week for the year of 2025. I should have called it 52 and 25, but I didn't. I just called it my year of new starts. So some of them get finished in the time frame, some of them don't. But next year I'll be banging out a lot of these because I do get pretty good progress on them because I stitch on them Friday, Saturday, and Sunday typically, and that's like my main focus for those days. So the first weekly new start was Cocoa Time by Ink Circles, and this is stitched in a classic Colorworks palette, and I'm stitching it on pink that I dyed myself, and I just called it Baby Pink. It's like a 32 count. I got a pretty decent progress. So here's where I got to. This is like, technically it's part of their arrangement series where like this is as tall as it's going to be typically, and then it's like mirrored on both sides, but then it will say like cocoa across the bottom. There's also like a tea time and a coffee time. I finished tea, I started coffee, and then cocoa's the last one, and I'm gonna frame these in like 3 frames that are the same and put them above my drink bar because we have a coffee tea bar, and I'll add, you know, hot cocoa to it. I was a little bit worried about the pink being like not super visible on the pink that I dyed, but as I stitched it, I was like, it's fine. I think it's cute. And then the other thing about this particular pattern is, so these are like cinnamon sticks here, and on the original pattern, there's just 3 cinnamon sticks that go across, but then she gives you 2 alternate small charts for, you can do a bottle of Bailey's or a bottle of schnapps, and you could replace them all, you could just replace one. So I decided I might do schnapps on the other side, but I did Bailey's on this side because I do like Bailey's, and I replaced one of the cinnamon sticks. It was very easy to do, and then I didn't know, I was like, what is this like thing in the center here? But on her like little chart thing, it says that it's like a chocolate tablet that you put in the cup to make like Mexican hot chocolate, and then you'll add like chili and cinnamon and stuff like that. And then you have like a whisk on this side, but then there's like a specialty kind of whisk that goes over on this side, and that's what you use for the Mexican hot chocolate. So I really, really like this. We're going to be in hot chocolate season soon. I do love hot chocolate. I get sucked into those people who like on TikTok, they're like, restocking my hot cocoa bar, and I'm like, I wish. And then I've also been watching like overconsumption content where they're like, you don't need 9 variations of hot chocolate, and I'm like, but I do need 9 variations of hot chocolate. You don't know me, girl. See, that's the problem, is like I love watching like all this stuff about like overconsumption is bad, and I'm like, you're right, but it's, you make it look so aesthetic. Then I started, this is a free pattern. This is called Pretty Polly by Hands Across the Sea. I think I saw this in, I feel like I saw this in a Cross Stitch the Globe video where Stephanie and Allison did like free patterns. And if I didn't see it directly in their video, I found it because of their video, because like they were showing free patterns from like brands, and then I was like going and checking them out and finding others. And I've never stitched a Hands Across the Sea. Like, it's just not like a designer that I'm like, oh, they're pretty, but it's just not my style. But then I saw this parrot and I was like, okay, I kind of want to do that. And I'm like, what if I did that on black? The colors would really pop. And so I grabbed 18 count black Ada, and I'm using DMC. And I got a decent chunk despite I think the weekend I started this, I had like a wedding to go to, and I got invited to like the pre-wedding festivities. So I didn't have a ton of time, but I did get a pretty good chunk. I think it does stand out pretty well on the black, but I almost think it would have looked better if I had used maybe like a softer charcoal as the base. And so it'll have, I'll finish the parrot and then I'll come up and do the flowers, but I just really wanted to get that parrot in, and I really wanted to get to the couple of blues that were in here. So like I very specifically was like, I need to get to the point where I can stitch some of that blue. My husband and I, we really want to get a bird someday. But we live in an apartment, and I just feel like it's not reasonable for the bird to have enough space. So like, it's like a future thing, but every time I see bird stuff, I'm like, oh, I want one so bad. And then this is the last spooky small I started. So this is the Yeti variation on the Sasquatch for like the Darling and Whimsy Quirky Quaker. And again, using Sulky. This fabric is 32 count, Bestitch Me Even Weave. I'm using the same like size and count for everything for these Quirky Quakers. This one was just called 207. I bought it in like a Friday night fight night. No, I think so. I can't remember. But I didn't get very far. So I got the border, which the main octagonal border is 100 stitches. And then these like, I did these like kind of crown looking pieces. And the light is kind of blowing it out, but he's got like little light blue footprints up here instead of the brown ones. And then, you know, I'm going to use a different green for the trees and stuff. In this one, I use kind of like a grungier, darker green because I thought that would just be fun to do. But I started this on Friday at work, and I just started getting like really like crappy feeling at the end of the day. And I was like, I feel nauseous. I feel like I can't keep my eyes open. I feel like I'm going to die. My head is killing me. And I'm just like, 4 o'clock hit, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And I just kind of sat there like with my head in my hands and like just kind of like putting pressure like on my eyes because I was like, I'm getting such a headache. And then I still had to drive like 20 minutes home because of traffic. And I got home and I like laid down in my bed and I just like cried because I was like, my head hurts so bad. And then I like texted my husband. I was like, help. Like, and so he comes running in and he's like, I didn't even hear you come in. And he's like, what's going on? I was like, I feel horrible. And he's like, well, what did you drink today? And I was like, I had 2 energy drinks. And he's like, okay, what did you eat today? And I was like, I had some gum. And he was like, okay, I see what's happening here. So he went and he got me a big glass of ice water. And then he went and he got me soup from my favorite like Chinese restaurant around the corner. And then I was fine. Interesting how that works. But I ended up starting my new start for the weekend instead of finishing this. But I want to finish this today. And then my final new start was my weekly new start. And this is Halloween Tiny Town by Heart and Hand. And this is a 32 count Heartland Picture This Plus linen, and I'm using the DMC. It does call for like, I think like weeks and maybe classic color works, but I started the Valentine's Tiny Town and I'm just using DMC for that. So I was like, why not? But here is where I've gotten to in 2 days. So on Friday, I started in the center, which is this ghost on the 3 pumpkins. And then I think I also did his little sign, and then yesterday I did this ghost and this little like triangular post, and then all of this like housing and stuff over here. I don't know why I cut this bit. First of all, look at what is that line? Like, why did I cut this like this? How did this happen? And I also don't know why I cut this when I did, because none of my hoops, except for the smallest nerd hoop, like fit on this. So I have to use this really tiny nerd hoop, and like the hoop this small, it doesn't fit very well into my Lowry stand, because it's like you're so close to the clamp that you don't really have that much stitching space. So like if I put it in like this, I was able to get over to the tree, and then it just would have been cramped to do anything else. So I don't know. But my plan is to finish the Yeti and then spend the rest of my evening, if I have time, working a little bit more on this before I tuck it away. But this stitches up really fast. It's the Tiny Towns. The only Tiny Towns that I like so far that I like for me, for my home decor, was the Halloween one and the Valentine's Day one. And if you buy the chart, you get like a couple little beads to put on there, which I'll do at the end. I've tried to look at and absorb and like the other ones so that I could do them like seasonally, but I just don't know. I might do one of the Christmas ones, we'll see, but I want to finish them as drums. I've never done a drum finish, so we'll see how that goes. So that leads me into whips, and I only had one whip because I was so busy starting and finishing everything else, and the whip is Colors of Winter by Stitchrovia. And I'm stitching this on a 40 count Blue Moon Even Weave by Bestitch Me. I'm using DMC. And my other whip go call for the month of October was to finish 5 blocks on this, which I finished them except for the text labeling all of them, because I started to use like the called for $37.99, but I don't know if it's like visible enough. On camera, I think it looks good. I don't know if I was just being like self-conscious about it or what, but I did end up doing that. And none of these are modified blocks, because I did change some blocks. Like this one here, it's called like Fair Isle Jumper, but I'm going to change it to Sweater, but I didn't change the actual composition of the block. And then I did Tartan Scarf. This is Gravy Mini Good Books, which that one took forever because it's a bunch of little color changes. The green one is Pine Trees, and then this last one is Fruit Pie. So it's coming along. I don't know if it'll get taken out again this year, because it's not, like, that was my final whip go call that involved these patterns. So I don't know if I'll be drawn. I feel like I tried to make these my work project. They just are not easy to work on at work, but working on them in my stand is a lot easier, so I just need to make some time for them in that way. So that was my one whip, and then I have a little bit of haul. So the first piece of haul I have, neither of these are like specifically cross stitch, they're like cross stitch adjacent. So I think I mentioned to you guys last time, but that I was gonna go antiquing with my parents. And I did go, and my goal was to find some like cool frames or something like that, like something that I could use to like finish stuff with. I did not find any frames. I did find a lot of racist paraphernalia, which I guess I should have expected, but man, there was a lot. And then I was also kind of on the lookout for like a really big kind of aesthetic jar, because I've been using like just regular canning like mason jars to put my orts in, because I like the kind of like sand art effect. Like I like to save them, put them in a jar, and my first jar got completely jam-packed full, and I was on a second jar, and I was like, I can't have all these jars of orts. I need one really big jar. And so I had seen these like kind of cool, like they were okay, like glass jars up on a high shelf, and I told my dad, I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna grab one of those because they're only like $2. And he's like, well, what do you need it for? And I was like explaining to him. And I love my dad because he never is like, that's weird. He's just like, oh, okay. But he was like, don't buy that. I have a jar in the garage at home that I think you could use. And he's like, I think it's clean. And I was like, if it's not, I can wash it. And I was like, whatever, a jar's a jar. It's like, I can pass up on this jar and take whatever my dad's got. We get back to his place and he goes into the garage and he brings me, I can't believe I'm gonna say this. This is how I know I'm like in my 30s, because I'm like, this is the coolest jar I've ever seen. This is a 159 ounce mason jar. Where do you get this? How did you acquire? I was like, Dad, what? Like, I didn't know that they made 159 ounce mason jars. 4.7 liters, 159 ounces. I was like, Dad, that was perfect. And got all my orts in it. And then when I got home, I wiped it down a little bit because it was a little dusty from being in the garage, and I shoved all my orts in there and I sent him a picture and he just goes, cool. Most dad response. So yeah, I got a new ort jar. And then, as you can see the cabinet behind me, my husband bought me the Create Room Dream Box, which is like, it's a cabinet for all your crafts, but it's just got like, it's very modular. I've wanted this stupid cabinet since like 2020 when I first saw it like targeted advertised at me on like Facebook, and I just like every so often I like look at it online. And then when we got married, he got blasted by the end of the night and he was like, I'm gonna buy you that thing. And I was like, okay, Robert, go to sleep. And then in September, I think, I was telling him, I was like, oh, like, I need a reality check. Like, they're having a good sale with, like, a lot of good add-ons, and I really want this. But I'm like, should I buy it? And he's like, just put it in the cart. And I was like, oh, okay. So I bought it, and I have it. And it's not, like, organized yet. I just kind of vaguely put stuff where I'm like, this is kind of where I want it to go, but I haven't, like, it's not finalized. But when I do, let me know if you guys want to see like a tour of like all my craft supplies. You can see I've got, do I know how to move? My DMC thingy right there. And then I've got, just gonna spin around, a couple of cones, black and white, my pattern book, and then I've got all my sewing stuff kind of over here. And then I've got like all of my cross stitch fabrics and my yarn, and I'm just trying to kind of figure out how do I want this, but it's got like built-in lights up top. This desk behind me, it folds up, like it's so cool, and then it all like closes up. So it's really, really cool. But if you guys want like a full tour of it, let me know, because I would be happy to do that. Okay, so then we go into plans, and on here I had Weekly Starts Halloween Tiny Town because I was supposed to film this on Thursday, but it is now Sunday. So I already started that, and then I'm going to start this coming weekend, Noël en Rouge, the Santa one. They're like these 4 little sweater ornaments that you can make. I've made 2 so far, so I need to stitch the 3rd. I'm stitching them on Jobelin, which Jobelin is gross to me. I don't like the texture, but that's what we're doing. And then I don't remember what the new start is the week after that. I did not write that down. I also put that I had plans to go to a sewing class at the library, but that also already happened. That was yesterday. So I'll show you what I made. It was just like a really basic sewing class to teach you how to make a pillowcase. And it was mostly to focus on like, you know, straight stitching and making a French seam, which I had never heard of. But I made this pillowcase. I just did like, because I didn't have a ton of fabric in the right sizes, because you have to bring your fabric like already cut. I'm the only one who brought their supplies correctly to the class, so a lot of people held it up. But I had yardage. I have some yardage, but it's like stuff that I'm like, I don't want to mess that up. I don't want to use that as tester because like it's more fun fabric. So this spiderweb one, I have like a ton of yards of this. I bought it at like a secondhand, like these, it was like 4 or 5 women who were like getting rid of some of their quilting supplies. So like they just had this huge, like you bought the fabric by weight, and there was a huge cut of this. And I was like, I could do a lot with that. And then for the contrasting cuff of my pillowcase, I just had this cute little like boo fabric. And then You know, I'm still very much learning, but we made, it's like a French seam where it's like, you have like the seam, but there's like no raw edges because you like double sew it. And that was really interesting. That was like a new technique I had learned. And I feel like it turned out pretty well. And the other thing I really liked about choosing the Halloween fabrics for the pillowcase is when I was a kid, we didn't have buckets to go trick-or-treating with. Like, I mean, they existed. People had them. But my mom always gave us pillowcases to go trick-or-treating with because she was like, you can fit more candy in there. And so, like, to me, this is like kind of reminiscent of like the old Halloween going trick-or-treating. And I'm going like, I'm not getting candy, but I'm going trick-or-treating on Halloween with my friend and her 2 kids. And I don't know, it made me really happy. So I haven't gotten to go trick-or-treating or really pass out candy since I moved out of my parents' house when I was like 17. So it's like, because I've always lived in apartments and kids don't trick-or-treat really in apartments. And so I never really had friends who lived in homes that, you know, like you could do that. And so I'm like, I want to like pass out candy. I want to see all the kids in their costumes. So I was so excited when a friend of mine, she's got a couple kids, I think they just turned 5. They're 4 or 5. I can't remember. They're twins. And I reached out to her and I was like, hey, if this is creepy, just tell me, but can I go trick-or-treating with you guys? I was like, I want to hang out. And she told her kids like that I was coming, and they got so excited that they made her take pictures of them in their costumes so they could send them and show them to me. And I was like, okay, I'm glad her kids like me. They're great kids. But yeah, so that was a fun class, and I'm taking another one in a couple weeks to learn how to do like a zippered pouch. And like I've done like some of this type of sewing, but it's all stuff that I've learned from just watching YouTube videos, and I wanted to learn from somebody who like knows what they're doing and I can interact with. And so I like told her straight up, I was like, hey, like I have my own sewing machine. I've done a little of this, but I'm not sure I'm doing it right. So like, I just want to, you know, get feedback and stuff. And she was great. Turns out she went to a high school that had like sewing as an elective. So she took that for 2 years and then she majored in it in college. And I was like, okay, love you. Gonna take all your classes. So, and then aside from that, I just feel really inspired now that I have all my stuff like this. And then I took the sewing class and I had finished a few things. I want to do more finishing. So one of my priorities, oh my gosh, my finishing pile. I got some stuff that needs to be finished. So some of this is cross stitch. Some of this is like bags that I started and I've got like half finished, like project bags. So I've got quite a lot that I want to work on. I don't have ideas for everything on how to finish. Some of this will just be framed. Some of them I want to sew into pillows, stuff like that. But I'm going to leave this on my desk, like the desk here, so that it annoys the hell out of me so I finish all this stuff. Also, now that I've got my room like reorganized, I have like 10,000 frames just like sitting up against the wall of things that I need to hang up. So I need to do that. But that is, I think, pretty much it. So yeah, like I said, let me know if you guys want to see like a tour of this when I'm fully done organizing, and I'll do like a Flosstube extra. And yeah, I think that's going to be it. Hopefully, I say this every time lately, but hopefully I don't take another month to post, because I would rather post every 2 weeks than make these crazy long videos that are like undigestible. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Happy stitching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.